In the dusty ruins of Aleppo in 2016, something impossible happened. Syrian rebels pulled out weapons that shouldn't exist anymore. Weapons from 1945, 5,000 StG44 assault rifles, the same guns that German soldiers carried in the final days of World War II, suddenly appeared in the middle of a modern civil war. How is this possible? Where did they come from? And why is nobody talking about the real story behind these ghost guns? Let me take you back. April 1945. Berlin is falling, the Third Reich is collapsing, and in the chaos, millions of weapons vanish into the void of history. Among them, the Sturmgewehr 44, the world's first true assault rifle. This wasn't just another gun. This was the weapon that changed warfare forever. Automatic fire, intermediate cartridge, effective range up to 300 meters. Every modern assault rifle, from the AK-47 to the M16, owes its DNA to this German innovation. But here's what they don't teach you in history class. When Germany surrendered, these weapons didn't just disappear. The Soviets captured hundreds of thousands of them. They studied them, reverse engineered them, and then something fascinating happened. They didn't destroy them. They stored them in vast arsenals across Eastern Europe and the Soviet Union. Waiting. Decades passed. The Cold War came and went, and these guns sat in darkness, forgotten by the world. Fast forward to the 1960s and 70s. The Middle East becomes a chessboard for superpowers. And Syria was a key piece. The Soviet Union poured weapons into Damascus. Tanks, jets, artillery. But hidden in those shipments, buried in manifests nobody bothered to read carefully, were crates of StG44s. Why would the Soviets send 70-year-old German rifles to Syria? The answer is as simple as it is cynical. Because they had them. Because storage costs money. Because in proxy wars, you don't send your best equipment, you send what's expendable. These weren't gifts of cutting-edge technology. These were the clearance sale of empire. Obsolete to Moscow, but still lethal in Damascus. But that's only half the story. Because those 5,000 rifles didn't just sit in Syrian army depots. Oh no, they disappeared again. Into the shadows of authoritarian control. Into warehouses that only a select few knew existed. For decades, they were invisible. Until 2011. When the Syrian civil war erupted, everything changed. Government arsenals were raided. Weapons flooded the black market. And suddenly, impossibly, fighters in Aleppo and Idlib were holding rifles from Hitler's Germany. Photos emerged online. Videos surfaced. The internet exploded with questions. Where did these come from? How are they still firing? And most importantly, who kept them all these years? Let me show you something chilling. In 2017, a weapons analyst examined one of these captured StG44s. The serial numbers match records from a 1947 Soviet inventory in East Germany. This specific rifle had traveled from Berlin to Moscow, then to Damascus, stored for 65 years, and ended up in the hands of a 22-year-old rebel who'd never heard of World War II. Think about that journey. That rifle has seen the rise and fall of empires. It's outlived its original makers, its captors, and probably its current user too. But here's the revelation nobody talks about. These 5,000 rifles, they're just the visible tip of an invisible iceberg. Intelligence reports suggest that similar caches exist across the Middle East and Africa. Libya had them. Yemen possibly has them. Wherever the Soviet Union had influence, they left behind these archaeological weapons. And in regions of perpetual conflict, they keep emerging like ghosts from the past. There's something deeply unsettling about this. We think of war as modern, technological, evolving. But in reality, we're still killing each other with 80-year-old technology. The violence is timeless. The weapons are inherited. The conflicts are endless. So why don't we hear about this more? Why isn't this story everywhere? Because it's uncomfortable. It reveals the ugly machinery behind geopolitical influence. It shows how superpowers treat smaller nations as dumping grounds for their obsolete arsenals. It demonstrates that the wars we see on TV today are often fought with the leftover ammunition of yesterday's empires. The StG44s in Syria are more than just historical curiosities. They're physical evidence of how violence is exported, recycled, and sustained. Every bullet fired from one of those rifles is a direct line connecting 1945 Berlin to 2016 Aleppo. That's not just history, that's a warning. And here's the final twist. Right now, as you watch this video, someone somewhere might be loading one of these rifles, a weapon designed for a war that ended before your grandparents were born, still taking lives in conflicts that might not end in your lifetime. 5,000 StG44s in Syria, a story of empires, secrecy, and the endless cycle of violence. These guns have been through more history than most people ever will, and they're still writing it. So I want to know what you think. Are we doomed to keep fighting wars with the ghosts of the past? Is there a way to break this cycle? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story opened your eyes to something you didn't know existed, hit that subscribe button. Because there are dozens of stories like this one, hidden in plain sight, waiting to be told. Until next time, question everything, especially the things nobody wants you to ask about.